teacher of logic, Dr. Deacon, Ananias, teacher of logic, teacher of logic, Dr. Deacon, Ananias, teacher of logic, Dr. Deacon, Ananias, teacher of logic, Dr. Deacon, Ananias, teacher of logic. Another good lecture, another good lecture, another good lecture, another good lecture. Another good lecture, 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 another good lecture.
The bell is rung, and class is now in session. Broadcasting coast to coast from beautiful Montana. Put your chin in your hand and think along with your resident professor of philosophy, Father Dr. Deacon Ananias Sora.
Welcome, everybody. How is the audio? Blessed evening this Thursday, as you've all chimed in for Thursday's nightly Nous, as we review and navigate from an Orthodox perspective various current events in the news and on social media, and learn how to think through in an Orthodox manner as well as critical thinking. So let's see how you all are doing in the chat. How many people we have? And we may even take special call-ins tonight. We'll see how that actually goes. All right. And I've got my Spindrift here. Remember, Spindrift is sparkling water with a drop of real squeezed fruit. Yep, that's it. And real fruit tastes better. Again, this is great for the fast. If you want to cut out sugar during the fast. It's got, what do we see here? 0 grams of sugar and only 1 gram of carbohydrates. Isn't that nice? And it really tastes refreshing too. This is the lime. They've got different ones here, but anyways. Let's see what's on for tonight. Yeah, I need my Spindrift. So I don't get a dry throat. 16. Let's get this back up to 46. I know Posh has got a debate right now, and it's just impossible with all the guys to schedule something that doesn't kind of overlap. All right, let's see. But the audio sounds good. Give a thumbs up or something in the chat real quick if the audio's good. I think I fixed everything on that end. So let's see what we got going. All good? Sounds good. All right, let's start off this evening with something real nice. What do we got here? Dog meets cow for the very first time. He's meeting all the cows. Look at that. Those cows are tripping on it, too. So we can always start off with something real nice like that. And then we'll get into some more, maybe some more difficult stuff and ethical and philosophical issues that probably need to be addressed. But let me just check in one more time to see how you guys are doing. We're up to 22. I'm trying to get people to come in, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And I put if you guys have any questions, we've got the super chat donation button right here that I'm putting in the chat. Again, even $1, helps, and I'll answer some of your questions. Let me also, before we begin and let people pile in, if you are not, I'm sure you are, but if you're not aware, let me just give I was going to say a shout out, but let me just let the audience know one second. Here, I'm trying to get something I want to show you on here. Let me do capture. This is our Patristic Faith. Most of you actually know about Patristic Faith, but for those that don't, let me give you just a kind of quick guided tour of our Patristic Faith here. What you'll see on the home page is the most recent articles and videos. Here we've got David and Dr. David Bradshaw in their most recent interview, Father Hans, Father John Whiteford's, and then you can browse all the latest right here and comb through, so you can see that. This is you should check this out. It's Orthodox Missionary. Charitable website here run by one of my dear clergy friends. We've also got Father Spiridon. And you can also come up here to the topics. So first of all, you have the about. Meet our team. Of course, Chase Mudd, who is our editor and designer and developer, web manager. Myself as the founder, obviously, and editor-in-chief. And then if you come, I'm trying to see here, you have topics: orthodoxy, spirituality, theology, apologetics, etc. Now, under the about, if you click here, you can actually get, what is Patristic Faith Ministries. You get a description there. But you also can see who our contributors are. So Father Spiridon Bailey, Father Hans, Father Turbo, the good Abbot Trifon there, Father John Whiteford, and then associate and regular contributors, Father Alexander Webster, Father Zachariah Lynch, and then David Erhan, David Cotel, David Patrick Harry, Jay Dyer, Jim Jotris, Roosh, and occasionally we'll get some other ones that aren't either the main contributing or senior contributors or associate or regular. And we've actually even put out a call for articles for a review if you're an Orthodox clergy member or academic and believe that you have something that you believe is worthwhile contribution, you can send it to our team and board for review, And again, what's nice about Patristic Faith too is that it's all of the clergy on Patristic Faith, as well as many clergy off, form what's called a clergy advisory board that gives gives advice, reviews things, and so that I'm not making obviously all the executive decisions, but I'm receiving wise counsel how to run the site, deal with issues when they come up, etc. And that's just kind of good proper order of the Orthodox Church, and as well as a Orthodox website too, to have such great wealth of clerical advice and guidance in operating Patristic Faith as a board together. So again, here you have a donate button. So it does cost money to run the site and pay my web designer Chase Mudd. So anything that you can contribute is always greatly appreciated. And there you can see we've got PayPal, Venmo, and Patreon as well. So if you haven't seen Patristic Faith, check it out right there. And then what was the other thing I wanted to show you guys real quick? I'm doing all the plugs right here. If you haven't checked out the book that we co-authored, and again, Father Alexander Webster, and Father Peter Heers is the editor of this book, with contributions from multiple clergy, including myself, and again, contributor authors Metropolitan Jonah, Archpriest Father Alexander Webster, Professor Peter Heers, myself, Presbyteria Catherine Baker, Irene Polidolis, who's obviously, you can see her credentials here, and you can get this on Amazon, but I direct people to the Uncut Mountain Press right there. And look at that. You can get a digital copy. I can't get it signed. Now, I do give signed copies if you ever make it up here to Montana, to my parish. And we did that for the Orthodox Montanica Conference this year. But I think that's a reasonable deal right there. $15 for the soft cover, $8 there. And you've got a video here that you can watch, and then a preview of, let's see if they list the, so chapter 1, Metropolitan Jonah. Chapter 2, A Pandemic Observed by Presbyteria Catherine Baker. Then Irene Polidolis, To Prevent Death, Please Stop Living. An Orthodox Physician reflects on death, fear, and public health. And then she did a lot of these chapters in here. It was really great. Is cheating death worth it? Reflections on medical assistance and dying. Tolstoy and the COOF-19. So she obviously a specialization in palliative care, which you see right here, chapter 5, on palliative care. And then my own article, which is probably takes a more philosophical approach into the history of philosophy and philosophy of science itself, which is my specialization. But again, thoroughly orthodox in the sense of kind of an orthodox epistemology. Who do you put your trust in, right? An orthodox analysis of COOF science. And then Father Peter Heers, chapter 7, The More Peril Taking Most COOF-19 Vaccines. And chapter 8, The Demonic Methodology of the Karanka Narrative. So there you go. Again, you can go check that out on Uncut Mountain Press. So that is all my plugs for tonight. I'm hoping that... 1 second here. Hoping we get some more people come in. Let me check. 28, a little bit more, huh? Yeah, thank you. Irene's writing on that was great. Star lineup says Slowboy Whiteboard. What's a diversity page? I don't know what that is. Jordan H says, have you heard of John McDowell's just said, oh, whoa! Speak of the devil and he shall appear. John McDowell. Right there. Just happened to be the book laying on my... That's pretty amazing I can do that. Let's see if more of you can send in some chats right there and see if that I can pull that up. Disjunctive epistemology and his reply to skepticism. I don't know exactly what argument you're referring to. Is it from Mind and World or is it another article of his? I'm trying to remember what John in here. John McDowell's response to skepticism. I can't remember, to be honest. I don't remember what his argument against skepticism is. But I will look it up. Just leave your name and number and I'll get back to you. Wouldn't that be great if I actually had like a, whatchamacallit, where you left voice messages with philosophical, theological questions. Leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you with an answer as soon as possible. And if I don't know the answer, I will ask and find out. All right, let's see. 26. Let's get those numbers up. Tell your friends. Tell mom and dad. Skepticism is great. I mean, if done in the right way. But let's go see what else we've got. Now, I'm going to try something new where instead of just combing through, which will give some dead time, which I don't want, I went through earlier today and just kind of picked some pieces to talk about. And I'll pull them up. Okay, this is weird. Let's look at this one. And I'll get your take on the heck is going on here. Bizarre phenomenon. Animals, thousands of them, walking in circles. Have you seen this? Stop me if you've seen this, heard this one. Looks like the sheep are in a pen for a long period. Look at this. What in the world is going on? This is going on all over the place. Recently. Oh, does it have some music? It's got some metal band. I think I've seen this with the fish, but I've never seen this going on with... I wonder what the comments say. Oh, dear God. collective consciousness. These animals are reacting together by sensing energetic chakras changing in the earth. They're communicating their feelings. Okay, I was going to stop you right there. Let's just see what this guy... He's got a blue check mark. You always want to check and see, like, what are these guys' backgrounds, what are they into, and it kind of explains a lot of... This guy seems like a new age. Wow, so deep. Knowing that you only experience timelessness in your soul's experience. Oh, well, you allow you to relax and stay present. As there is only really, like, basically this moment. UFOs! I do like Petra, but he's probably got some weird... Oh, okay, yeah, exactly, dude. Palladians! Aren't the Palladians like the ancient alien, like conspiracy theory or something like that? How do you get this far out in thought and in reality? That's my question to you guys. Let's see what else he's got going here. Oh, he's obsessed with the Palladians. Palladians say they're currently... Am I right about that? Is that what the Palladians... Maybe I should look that up and see what Palladians are. Yeah, they're aliens, right? Oh, it's Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is a Palladian alien. Well, tell me that doesn't look demonic. Right? What? This is so crazy. I can't believe people are into this stuff. Well, you know, G.K. Chesterton says, is there Nordic aliens? What in the heck? You know, when people stop believing in God, it's not that they stop believing, G.K. Chesterton says, but that they'll just believe in anything. Look at this. Let's look at the images. Let's just take a gander through how demonic... Yeah, exactly. Look at this. They have high priests. This is absolute insanity. Yeah, if you see one of these beings, don't talk to them. No, thank you. Do not engage. Disengage! So this is what this dude's... Where am I here? Nope. Forgot where I was at. That's what this dude's into. He's the dude that's going to give you advice on Twitter. Why? Because he gets his advice from demonic interdimensional beings. This is ridiculous. Somebody has to help this man. How do you help somebody like that? All right, that was just one... That was one person's response to this weird phenomenon going on. Animals walking in a circle. My new album. Here's some more. This lady says the magnetic poles of Earth are shifting. Be prepared. Now that does happen. I don't know what. Ants in a circle too? Crop circle season. See, all these people are tying this into like astrology. I seen this last night in the third phase of the moon. Human consciousness now also getting channeled into recursive traps. How do these people come up with these things? This person says natural behavior, nothing strange about it. This person says, I don't know what that. This person says they've raised the 5G to a high level. This person just says maybe they've all turned into, they've converted. The animals have converted to Islam, and they're practicing their pilgrimage circle around Mecca's Kaaba. That probably makes the most sense out of all that I've read thus far. What do you guys think? Let's see. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. 38, good. Thank you guys. Get those numbers up. Let's see if we have any super chats, any questions. You can always take it at the end, but I like to kind of check in and make sure I don't forget anybody. So what's your thoughts on it? Anybody? All right. It's the end of days. Sorry, sometimes I got it. This is a wool. This is a wool cap I actually got at the northernmost monastery in Russia. It's actually where Solzhenitsyn, where the archipelago Gulag was rep by Solzhenitsyn and Solovets. In fact, if anybody has this book, it's really good. I think some of the holy elders and saints are actually mentioned in the northern. I think at Febade, if I'm pronouncing it correct. But this is a great book. Yes, here, Saint Sebastian of Solovki. So Solovet Solovki is the same monastery, and you can see some of the pictures here of the monastery. But when I was up there, I actually purchased this warm, nice wool beanie. Anyways, a good book, especially for the Advent, to read some of inspiring stories. 43, yes, thank you so much. Let's get those numbers up. Let's go. All right, let's see what else I'm going to show you. Or I'm going to shut that one down, and we'll move to the next one. Oh, this is great. So I found this dude. Maybe you've seen him on Twitter. Another person that needs Christ and the Orthodox Church. Let's just take a look. Let's see what kind of ideology, anti-Orthodox ideology this man has. Forgive me. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Got you upside down. There you go. This gentleman's name's Jack. How am I even going to pronounce that? Cochirella? Is that right? Ladies and gentlemen, he's a Gen Z activist, Democrat, digital strategist, Florida Democrat, and he identifies as he, him, with a rainbow Skittle flag, with 303K followers in an awesome ratio to 923 following. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jack. Let's see what Jack has to say. So here's a typical thing like tolerance, right? This guy's preaching tolerance. We can all have different opinions and still be friends. Doesn't apply to human rights. Now, didn't we have a whole conversation about rights? Obviously, we know what that means. So they're going to define, right, no pun intended, what rights are. They're literally going to make them up. And they're going to categorize them so that the Ministry of Truth will say what can actually be spoken about. So you can pack anything into human rights. Over 4,000 comments. Now, of course, he gets trolled by people. Like, what's a woman? So obviously this is probably to do with Skittles and abortions. Do you have a right to murder? Do you have a right to... Well, what's the argument that... And it applies both to these kinds of things. They say... my body, my choice. You can't tell me what I can do with the body. Actually, I can. I mean, not me personally, but that is the purpose of law, right? Isn't that exactly what law says? It defines what you can do with and not do with your body. So notice you get these ambiguous, nice sounding words. I mean, we all believe in rights. I mean, shouldn't everybody have rights? Except for this, your right to self-defense. So notice they can move that goalpost anywhere they want. It's human, just how this started off. It's human rights. Everything's allowed except for what I say. Isn't that how we could really translate this right now? Dartmouth Democrats. Also, there literally is no such thing. It's literally made up a principle of my body, my choice. You won't find it in any book, nowhere in history. So, it's kind of like an ad hoc rescue. When in doubt, just make something up and make it sound good. If it doesn't sound good, my body, my choice, freedom. That's how the devil always gets us, right? You should be free to do whatever you want. Yeah, they're trolling him some more. Okay, this is a dead giveaway, just looking at that. What she's gonna... Yeah, here we go. Yep, so your opinion is the government gets to control my body. We can't be friends. Ever. Lock her up, dude. Lock that person up. Not really, but... My people have been there and done that, yeah. What's funny is the arguments for slavery are basically the same arguments pro-abortionists are making for that they own. They own another human being and can do whatever they want to, right? They're actually very, very similar arguments. I'm not going to go too far into that because I don't want to get this YouTube shut down. But you get the idea, right? But it's insane. Actually, that's the job of government. It gets to control your body and tell you what. You can't run outside without any clothes on. You can't drive however fast you want. You can't go and just shoot your neighbors. And here's a good argument to think about. They're called forced birthers is what they're using. Again, it's confusing. I mean, this is supposed to be bad, like forcing people, right? Now, it's hilarious that these people pretend that they're kind of libertarians. They really aren't. But imagine if I made an argument. So what's the other? So a woman should be forced to give birth. What if she... I mean, it's going to be financial, psychological hardship. You're going to force somebody a life of misery? All right, well, think about this. Suppose that my neighbor was causing emotional, psychological, and financial harm to me. And he can't move. There's nothing I can do. Why should I be isn't that forced neighboring? I mean, shouldn't I be able to, if my financial... And let's say it's even worse. I chose my neighbor. I signed a contract so you can live next to me forever. That'd actually be a more apt analogy. And then it turns out I decide he's going to be a financial, emotional, and psychological burden on me. Am I allowed to kill my neighbor? And everybody says, no, of course not. That's murder. Oh, so you're into forced neighboring, huh? Forced neighboring. I mean, you must... So you see how they construct these things. This is why you have to find an analogy like that to show just the absurdity of the position. Now, again, in cases of rape and stuff like that, that's very small and it's very tragic and stuff, but does that mean that you can do... I mean, it's a murder of an innocent. So it's even a stronger argument that you shouldn't be actually taking the life of a child versus the neighbor, because I could argue the neighbor's not innocent. The life of the woman's both psychology and even if something physical, if she was like young, could be repaired. But the death of a child can never be brought back. And again, so to couch these things, they're types of red herrings, right? Forced birthing. Well, I would say, yeah, of course, forced birthing, because the law forces you to do something where the opposite would be a crime, murder. So no matter how bad something is, it doesn't allow for the taking of innocent life. I mean, there's questions, obviously, in bioethics, where if the woman's life, they're going to lose the life. And you know that for certain. Like, those are different kinds of considerations, right? And Orthodox bioethicists have given responses on that, as well as other complicated things like, being on a life support machine and stuff. Like, how do you deal with that stuff? I'm trying to think if I can find my Orthodox bioethics, couple of bioethics books up there. And those are complicated cases. They've argued, Orthodox bioethicists have argued really well about those kinds of things. But those don't apply to those are exceptions to the rules, and you can make a moral case for something like that. But you don't make a rule based on an exception to the rule. And they're really different cases. So, yes, we believe in forcing people to do stuff. That's called law. I mean, how big shocker there. Law and government tells you what you can do and not do with your bodies. Yeah, exactly. Maybe 0.5%. Then you make a rule based on that. So just call that out is a red herring. You don't make a rule based on an exception to the rule. And if we go back to, I mean, obviously this has something to do. So first of all, you could just reject rights language altogether and say, I don't believe in rights, I believe in duties. And they're moral duties. And again, one thing that's really interesting, I mean, I've talked about the previous, Tuesday night, about rights language coming from the Enlightenment. And you'll notice something really interesting, contrasting kind of modern thought versus antiquity. So when you get to like the Enlightenment, modernity, law is, you've already have this kind of assumption like man in a state of nature. The man is not a social animal, is not social by nature, but rather like a beast, just kind of a Hobbesian kind of idea, right? And we'd all just kill each other. But we have rationality, and so we, unlike the beasts, and so we realize this, and we start to actually make contracts. We come out of a state of nature and enter into an artificial, it really is for Hobbes and these thinkers, social contract. And then you have these kinds of notions of, well, then law is basically, so if you talk about rights, they're typically considered in this context negative rights. You shouldn't be able to take my life, my liberty, enslave me, or my property. Now notice all of that's grounded in self-ownership. I own my body. I therefore own my life, I own my thoughts, my work, and then if I mix that into the land, my labor into the land, then I have private property. So it's really strange in the Enlightenment, post-Enlightenment, laws basically, it's there to prevent people from doing stuff, from killing each other, from stealing and stuff like that. But if you look at antiquity, law is seen very differently. Law isn't just kind of, for the most part, negative to prevent people. So that, and notice the idea that this is then transferred into the founding documents of the United States, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that once you're protected, right, in kind of a negative sense, people can't do this, the law is protecting you, then you're free to choose whatever kind of happiness that you want. But that's not the notion of antiquity. Happiness was eudaimonia, right? And that was human flourishing. So there was definitely like a very objective kind of understanding of what it was to achieve human happiness. And that was in the sense of acquiring the virtues. So law was not simply restrictive. It was there to encourage the citizens to become virtuous, to achieve eudaimonia, happiness. So notice big difference. So, for example, with sexual activity, government, I definitely hold to this, has, in the ideal sense, a responsibility and authority to, if certain types of activities are destructive to the individual and those around them, I'm not talking financially, I'm talking what was antiquity, right? In terms of acquiring the virtues. I mean, if that's the whole, if the polis is there for that, so that we're social by nature, well, why are we social by nature? What's our telos and end? So that we work together to become truly human. What is it to become truly human? To acquire the virtues. Then yeah, of course, like government has a response. They should be telling you exactly what kind of stuff. Now, of course, there's different degrees. They might, but in principle, I mean, different degrees of application of like how stringent do you want that law, or how much do they want involved in your life. But I'm saying in principle, absolutely, government should have the authority to be able to tell what type of sexual activity or what type of actions a person can or cannot do. It's only absurd to somebody once you've bought into this kind of enlightenment concept that first you're a beast by nature in a state of nature, and you join artificially the social contract, right? And then the whole notion of rights is self-ownership, right? It's completely detached from the notion of antiquity of virtue and acquiring virtue. These people don't even, on Twitter, obviously have no idea. God forgive them, they don't know what they're doing and saying. They've been in a brainwashing machine. Told all these things. You have a right to do whatever you want, so long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, right? You hear that one? Well, wait a minute. What does hurt mean? Physical harm? Social harm? Psychological harm? Harm through generation? I mean, there are no actions that don't, I would say at bare minimum, harm is any negative consequences. And I'm sorry, there are no actions that don't have an impact on those outside of you. So bad actions, immoral actions, cannot simply be kept in the privacy of one's own home. They will affect everybody else. So, second of all, it's just a made-up principle. Where did you get that? You should be able to do whatever you want, so as long as you... No. Absolutely wrong. Absolutely false. Why would you... There's nothing historic about that. There you go again. Literally just making stuff up because it sounds nice. What do we always want to know? Is it true, and do we have good reasons to believe it? In this case, it's false, and you have no good reasons to believe it. It's literally made up. It's kind of an ad hoc rescue. But it makes my position right if it's true. So just grant me my assumption without having to justify or prove it, and then I can make my case. You see, it's always the same con with all these people. Don't buy it. It's a bad product. So let's see what else, you guys. Evil is not a thing, so it's a privation. So you can't own something that doesn't actually exist. Now we can talk about evil existing in the sense of there's things that are good and exist that are misused. But it's not a substance. It doesn't have any positive ontological status. Just like amputiness or blindness. Can't really own the lack of something or misuse of something. So yes, God owns everything that exists. And he doesn't own evil because evil's not a thing. Hey Ryan, what's up? Well, in Montana, you could probably shoot your neighbors. I don't know. I haven't checked the law. It depends on what they're... I guess it depends on what they're doing, right? But let's just say there's like being annoying or something. You get the idea. I'll try to think if you can think of other examples too where... Fact, I want to read you last year in ethics we did this is right before the Roe v. Wade. Hi, you might remember me from my previous commercials, Spindrift. Why come it tastes so good? Because it's real fruit and tastes better. You might also remember me from ethics. And I had an ethics class, and it just happened to be that Roe v. Wade was just in right before it got overturned in the Supreme Court. And so, of course, this issue came up in class. But we were doing all these ethical theories, and, I have to take a different kind of approach in class. And what I try to do is teach people how to think rather than what to think. And what I want them to do is to be able to kind of think through the things that we've learned and kind of connect the dots and be like, identify what theory does this sound like to you? Something going on in current events, what do you think that was influenced by? Can you connect the dots historically? So, I had an interesting exchange with a student, and I'll tell you about it. So, it is a privilege to be able to be an educator as well as serving in the church. And like I said, I always want to teach people how to think correctly. I mean, it's really kind of the discipline philosophy done correctly is the science of thinking correctly about all things and critically about things as well. Not just taking things at face value, but being kind of a philosophical detective and being skeptical and what's really going on. Let's get to the bottom of things. In principle, that's philosophy. And it's difficult. It comes with certain challenges when teaching. And you want the very best, obviously, for your students and for me to acquire both moral and intellectual virtues. And there is some kind of crossover between like clerical work and teaching as well, because you don't want to coerce. You use a gentle hand. You allow the student to come to you, right? Just as the parishioner, and you don't want to be kind of a leader and teacher and pastor in the sense of dictating. This is what most, unfortunately, teachers do. They tell you what to think and not how to think. And in turn, it's really just kind of the propagandists, right? They're trained. But I want to take the opposite of that. I want them to be able to learn to acquire these things themselves, learn to ask the right sorts of questions, think critically through philosophical presuppositions, etc., so that they can acquire those virtues. You're not going to acquire virtues intellectually or morally by somebody just telling you what to do and you just follow them, right? So I teach, ethics almost every year, which gives me a unique opportunity to try to instill with a gentle hand intellectual and moral virtues in every student. But they have to discover that on their own. Nobody can tell you what the matrix is. You have to see what it is. I don't want to be like the other professors in a Pavlovian, conditioning machine to brainwash them into, these secular ideologies and destructive ideologies as well. Again, what do I say? I want to teach them not what to think, but how to think. And that really is my personal philosophy on teaching. And again, the trick is to do that, equip them with the necessary tools to think correctly about these things, so that you don't have to tell them what's true or false. They've acquired these tools. They've acquired the intellectual virtues, and they can think through and be like, there's something wrong with that. And that's a very, very difficult process. It takes a lot of time. So let's talk about abortion, which obviously as Christians we think as morally atrocious and one of the worst, sins. If you read, in antiquity, that was punishable by death. The state, or the church handed over the state to, right, just like any murder, to actually be able to deal with it. The church didn't actually take any civil kind of punitive actions in that. It said that's a matter for the state. But the state got in its guide, in the sense of the when we had symphony, its moral guide from the church and from God, and so it knew that this is it's murder, it's a crime, and so you could be executed for murder just like you can today. I'm not saying that's what we should have now, but it just shows you that how the severity of what that was, how that was seen. And you look at the canons on what happens if somebody actually has an abortion too. We don't, again, apply the stringency now, but it was like 7 years, like banned from communion, begging people every liturgy outside the gates for forgiveness, and like sackcloth and ashes kind of thing. So it was very serious in Orthodoxy. We realize it's the murder of the innocent, the most innocent. So, but last year we were covering in ethics utilitarianism versus like Kantian stuff. It was just one among many like topics, and then I started connecting some dots, and so the students themselves were familiar with the differences between the consequentialist utilitarian versus the kind of Kantian deontological ethics. So I posed the following question. So we were already kind of talking about this going through Twitter, right? Autonomy, freedom, I think we all value, right? And the libertarian or the and even the classical liberal, that's almost an absolute. It certainly is for like the libertarian. That's the most important thing. I think most of us would say that it's important, but it's not an absolute. Sometimes you might sacrifice autonomy for things that you thought or deemed were more important, right? I don't think that's problematic. In fact, the students didn't either, and they agreed with the idea that sometimes autonomy and freedom has to take a balance. Look, even in that guy's tweet there, he may be wrong about it, the application, but even he thought, little Jack there, that freedom is an absolute. So he thinks you're free to have different opinions except for this, right? So he's wrong about the application of it, but in principle, it seems intuitively he understands that as well. And so the students did as well. You probably do. Again, the question is where and how, when, right? These are the things that are important. Although we could probably criticize the libertarian or the anarchist that says, no, they're absolute, you never ever sacrifice that. But other than that, I'd say most people kind of have that principle that, like, no, sometimes there's stuff that's more important. Freedom and autonomy has to take a bow. Why? Because my students agreed with this too. If you made freedom absolute, it'd be anarchy. And of course, the anarcho-libertarian or capitalist says that's great. But most of us would say, no, people can't simply do whatever they want. So then I moved that conversation from autonomy, freedom, and law and rights to talk about Roe v. Wade, which, like I said, at the time was being reviewed by the Supreme Court and hadn't actually been overturned yet. So I took exactly what we're talking about on Twitter and I framed it. My body, my choice. What say you? And then I made this the said contra. But wait a minute, isn't that exactly what law says? What you can do with your body? So I'm sorry, as we pointed out on Twitter, the phrase or the idea, you can't tell me what I can do with my body, that argument is not, in principle, an objection, right? Because that's what law does. So strike one, you're out. You can't use that. So take that away from them. But then, obviously it took a little bit of different turn. And the student asks, well, if we make abortions illegal, you've heard this one, then many women are going to die from back alley abortions. And the missing premise, or what we call in logic the end theme, right? The unstated premise is that we don't want women to die, right? Therefore, we shouldn't make abortions legal. Now, I could have addressed that head on, but rather, I asked the student, why don't you tell me what particular philosophy or ethical system that goes to? And it was quite amazing. They identified it as consequentialism, utilitarianism. Why? Because consequentialism doesn't hold anything to be intrinsically good, maybe except for well-being. So there are no intrinsic goods or bads out there. Well, how do I judge an action to be good or bad? Morally speaking, it's good if it's, the technical term in ethics is optimific. Optimific means that, it yields more, a greater balance, let's say. So it's kind of a more nuanced position than the greatest good for the greatest number of people, which is kind of the bastardized version of utilitarianism. A better one is to say that utilitarianism is concerned with yielding the greatest balance of benefits over drawbacks. So it's couched in terms of consequences still, and it's the consequences in terms of whether it's optimific or not that makes an action good or bad. So it's morally acceptable if it's optimific, it's morally unacceptable if it's not. In other words, good and bad are completely relative and determined by the consequences. So they all, they knew that theory and they all agreed that overturning Roe v. Wade would be either good or bad based solely on whether a woman could die in back alley abortions or not, was thoroughly utilitarian and consequentialist, and not Kantian. Why? Because Kantian understood that acts were just or unjust in their own right. It's interesting, the deontological ethics. And especially for Kant, justice comes first, whether there are negative or positive consequences. So think about with like death penalty and stuff. If people often say, but it doesn't deter. Well, Kant would simply just say, who cares? Lex talionis, right? It's just. It's what has to be done. It's the law of, lex, like I said, lex talionis in Latin. Whatever is on top of that, if it's a deterrent or not, is just icing on the cake. So you see it's pitted against utilitarian. You do what's right, regardless of the consequences. Why? Because if it's just, it's what you got to do. If it's your duty, you got to do that, right? But people are gonna die. Doesn't matter. We also consider the following argument in class, assuming Kantian perspective, that is, that certain laws and actions are intrinsically good or bad, just or unjust. Couldn't somebody object that we ought to legalize crimes just because in a case of possibly negative consequences that might result? My God, kids, think about how many people die from bank robberies. I mean, shouldn't we make safe bank robberies total consequenceless? No, you shouldn't be. Right? The law is intrinsic, especially if you're going in with the threat of violence and stuff like that. An eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, lex talionis, right? That also would be bad too is that do you think of like the gun debates and stuff like that? They're all thoroughly utilitarian too. Like even if you granted them that like more access to guns means more crimes. Does that mean that you should restrict gun access? Well, probably if you're utilitarian. The problem is, what if certain groups of people commit more crimes than other groups of people? Maybe on that same line of reasoning, if you're utilitarian, you'd have to say, well, those people need to be banned. Now, of course, this is an argument, a counter-argument that you could bring up. They'd be like, that's absurd. You can't do that, right? Why? Because they all of a sudden switch out of the consequential utilitarian that nothing has an intrinsic good and be like, because all people are equal and have a right. Oh, now you sound like a Kantian, right? So you see there's this kind of double think, right? They're not consistent. So that's a good one for like the gun debates. But if we go back to abortion too, that we brought up the objections from the consequentialists too that would seem to be absurd that they wouldn't want to like safe bank robberies. And the very fact that the Kantian ethics is an objection in itself to student response, as you well could guess. But bank robberies and abortions aren't the same thing. Oh my God! Thank you! I didn't realize. I mean, this whole time I thought bank robberies and abortions were the same thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. Obviously, I know that. What do you think an analogy is? You take two things that are different and find what's in common, right? An analogy. And you hear this too with the Skittles arguments, right? Well, that's not the same. Duh. I'm taking two things that are not the same that share something similar, i.e. a principle, right? Because one you object to, bank robberies. The other one you don't. But if what makes those both wrong is the principle, then I can make a move from the one that you clearly think is wrong. Why? Because it has to have a principle that makes that wrong. If I can derive that, just like a precedent, then I can apply it. It's like, well, then you should also believe on this different case because it would be derived from the same. It applies, the same principle applies. So it's just a cop-out, again, not the same, but the principle is. Of course, they're two separate things, but the principle behind it stands the same. If murdering an unborn, innocent child is intrinsically immoral and a crime, then the fact that some lives might be lost if people decide to commit a crime is simply irrelevant to the fact whether abortion should be illegal or not, whether it's immoral, correct? So what I'm trying to do when I'm speaking to you right now, and I did to the students, is, again, what philosophy does. You've been living up on the surface with all these words and cliches and jargon, talking points from the talking heads. I mean, that's not that's not the reality. What's beneath the surface? What are the presuppositions behind that? And this is what we did. We kind of did a presuppositional analysis of what's really going on here. Oh, it's consequentialism. It's utilitarianism. But then I'm Kantian in this other sense. Why am I have two contradictory principles in myself, right? This is what we want to do. And it also occurred to me, well, wait a minute. If y'all fine with utilitarian consequentialist ethics in that line of reason, shouldn't we just ban abortions just because such an action would clearly be optimistic, right? It itself is going to, whatever negatives you bring up, banning will still in a consequentialist utilitarian, yield a greater balance of benefits over, lives saved and a decrease of the number of lives lost. So that was kind of the final nail in the coffin. So I just thought that I just tied in right now. We're going over the Twitter and some of these similar things about rights and all the same kind of talking points and stuff. And I thought, you know what? It reminds me exactly what we went over in ethics. So let's see what your thoughts are there. Yeah, give me some Greek food with lemon. I love that band too. Talking Heads, same as it ever was. Do we have any super chats? Yes. Burp South says $10. Blessed Father, Deacon, and Doctor, and I. How did you hear of Neil Postman? Wow, it's funny you should say that. Your Sophia paper is great read. In fact, the person who I first heard Neil Postman from is actually in the chat right now. How weird is that? Ryan Darrow. Give a shout out to everybody. Ryan Darrow was the first person. This goes way back. Ryan, when was the first time that you read Neil Postman? Because then Ryan actually told me about that. And then when I was actually writing the paper, I pulled from some Neil Postman. Guilty as charged, yeah. When was that? It was a long time ago. So Ryan and I grew up together. Ryan's Orthodox, another Ortho bro here. But that was a long time ago. Ryan's got a great inventory and library of reading. Yeah, it was years. But that's it. He's actually in the chat. It's very odd that you should bring that up. Anyways, yeah, Neil Postman's great. So thank you. Veronica sends $5. Thank you for starting these night streams. Steak and potatoes for the mind and spirit. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Should we go to some more? So that was nice. See, these are great springboards for deeper conversations about theology and philosophy and critical thinking. Okay, here we go. Oh gosh, here we go. All right, I gotta go upside down for 1 second. Now back here. I don't know why that's going upside down. Callum says, "This isn't your country anymore, sweetie. Time to rethink Christmas. Is half the country not Christian?" Says Diversity Group. Well, we can thank the Diversity Group. They're in all the colleges, by the way. There was something in one college I worked at called PI, Pluralism, Inclusivism. What was the E standing for? Pluralism, inclusivity, and I can't even remember now. It was something ridiculous, though. But yeah, all this diversity stuff, right? I mean, think about it. Demonocracy, dumbocracy, right? I mean, who thought it'd be a great idea to found a country and put every single different contradicting culture, religion, and groups together, and all of which would have to compromise by going, well, I'm offended. I don't agree with Christmas. Well, Christmas is one of our foundations. Well, we have to live together, so time to go voot. Time to go voot about it, right? Because half of us don't want to see the problem with diversity. We should reject diversity, inclusivity, and equality, and embrace patriarchy. We have 14 patriarchs. Exclusion of heresy, and what's the other one I wanted to add to go with the third? Unity in Orthodoxy, in Christ. Do you see the devil's? It's all inverted, right? What is good? Hierarchy, not this dumb French Revolution egalitarianism. Hierarchy. It's in nature. It's in the polis. It's in the heavens. It's reality. Inclusivity? No. Exclude heresy and immorality. Include virtue. Diversity? No. Unity. Unity in virtue. Unity in Christ. Correct? The devil does the opposite. Many people feel left out. While their own religious or spiritual festival is ignored. Isn't today Kwanzaa Day or something like that? I just saw that. Barf. And do you remember I read the whole thing about going into the holidays, the holy days? Let's prove to the world we're Christians. Because this person says if Christmas as practiced today is even a Christian thing, it's just a fun family event. Well, isn't that a shame? That's sad. This guy's got to be a pagan. Just call it Yule and decorate the Norse tradition. Ufta. Return to your pagan death. Yeah, dude, they all converted to Christianity. Yeah, see, these pagan. By the way, I've got my... If I grab it, I gotta show you this. You keep looking at the tweets. And can you grab the... I got it. You guys are going to love this. It's only right that the Norwegian Nous should actually have an icon of King Olaf. Sorry, dude. All you Norwegians, pagans, converted to Orthodoxy, to Christianity. And thanks to Saint Olaf. Right there. These guys, pagan LARPers, right? But let's see what... It is a sad thing. Yeah, this is great. This person obviously misspelled it, but they mean to say, I love how feminists always beam that exaggerated smile As if trying to prove to everyone they were happy with the hollow, scooped-out, meaningless husk they call their lives. Oh, man. That was a diss. Oh, here we go. The total zeitgeist movie. Consider Christmas a solstice celebration, reimagining. Right? Barf. This person just calls this goofus out right here. This is objectively false. Stop spreading this lie. Yeah. They're being taken away. Yeah. Oh, here we go. It's a celebration of the solstice. Wrong. There's so much. Look at the rise of pagans. We probably have a Muslim. Yeah, we're going to read what he has to say. What else do we have? I don't really care. I mean, why would I care about what these people, unless I believed in democracy? And it's really interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. I've been wrong about a lot of things in my life. I really have. And even my political positions have changed quite a bit from, over the long stretch of years. But then I thought there's one thing that I've always held constant. I never liked or believed in democracy, no matter what my political position had actually changed over the years, which says a lot. And I'm not alone in that, too. Every major thinker in history has thought democracy is literally the worst form of government. Except for Rousseau, who thought it could work probably on a village scale, like where you know your neighbor, which that's acceptable. But it's like, I don't really care if 50% of Americans don't like Christmas. It's worth fighting for, isn't it? Because it's true. It's the birth of the Savior. Who cares what you believe? You're wrong. What are your thoughts on diversity? I'm not going to accept diversity. This is ridiculous. The devil, dude. The devil is diversity. I want to see what you guys have to say here. Oh, interesting. You had a pagan upbringing. You know what's funny, too? I am now a threat to the democracy. Yeah, they're going to take my super chats. Oh, I didn't put them on Facebook or YouTube. When I talk to my students about this, they're always like, but then they get it. I'm like, look, I'm not saying anything really that crazy. Like, every political thinker. Let's see if we have any more super chats. By the way, does anybody... We can open up for any call-ins if you guys want. I'll put it in the... Forgot about that. I'll put it in the... We haven't done this yet, which will be cool. If you want to call in... Use this link. Bing. All right, let me go on. We've only gone through a couple of these. Excuse me. And I have so many more things that we can go over. Oh, this one's a good one. Yes. It's burning. Ugh. All right. You guys are going to like this one. Ooh, controversy, dude. Controversy. This guy's talking about all Orthodox rosary. Should Orthodox be praying the rosary? This guy adds in right here. So we love St. Dominic now? LOL. Now, my argument on this is no. And not simply because, as some of these people point out, what's often practiced with the Roman Catholic rosary are the imaginative prayers. Yes, I agree with Saint Seraphim Maserov, the prayer of the Theotokos. Hail Mother of God, ever Virgin. Okay. We can pray that. My question is, why not just call it the prayer of the Theotokos? Why call... So even if you didn't do the imaginative prayer, because like people are going to argue that like we should pray the rosary, just don't do the imaginative prayer and it's all good. Well, the words are okay, but why are we calling it rosary? Here's my argument. Unlike the Our Father, the rosary is in people's mind uniquely associated with Roman Catholics. Why do we Orthodox want to tell the world we pray something that in their mind is uniquely Roman Catholic? We're not Roman Catholic. We do not have the same faith as them. So I think it's wrong on that. You want to say the words? That's great. Don't do the imaginative prayer and call it the prayer of the Theotokos. I mean, it's kind of similar to an argument that I would make why I don't think it's correct. The Orthodox priests run around with white collars. You know, and I fell into that for a while because I'm dumb and I make mistakes. And I had to think through, I'm like, why am I looking like an Anglican or Roman Catholic when I'm Orthodox? I'm Orthodox. The world should know that. I shouldn't be ashamed of. And they should know that it's a different faith from Roman Catholicism and Protestantism. And so that is my argument there. Do we have any... Excuse me. Nobody wants to call in? I thought Tristana was going to call in. He might be in sleep now. Yeah, if you want to call in, say hi. You've got the Zoom right there. But I'm kind of interested to see what you guys have to... Atheists and Protestants should call in. Everybody's welcome. We just celebrate so much diversity up in here. Oh, I have you guys on the screen. I just realized I have you guys on the screen. I forgot to switch over to the Zoom meeting. I'm sorry. Let's move on to, until like somebody calls in or joins. Let's move on to another. Wait, so that was a good one, eh? Next up on the Nightly News, Thursday Nightly News. Welcome, thank you so much. do I want to cover this one? No, I'll pick another one. I'll pick this one here. What's this one say? Oh yeah, this is crazy. Coming to a town near you. So excited for the future, guys. It always does this. It won't, I've got to go to this, then back to this, and back to that. Okay, coming to a town near you. What in the world? It never ends. Just when you think it's stopped and the world has gotten over this, we've got the CCP Koof troops, known as the Big Whites, launching raids in Guangzhou. If I pronounce that incorrectly, forgive me. Possibly the silliest question of all night. Why isn't the UN stopping this? I don't... Well, I know, right? What's going on? I mean, the UN. This has got to be fake, right? There's no way somebody could seriously ask this question. It's because the UN probably... this person gets it. Who do you think thought up that plan? Right? Why isn't the UN stopping? Here we go. What's the difference? One's cool, kind of cool, and yeah, one's fiction. That's right. Oh yeah, I think people were... Silly question, but why is the police written in English versus Chinese on those shields? It is weird. Oh yeah, they actually weren't police, they were IRS agents. Just when you thought it was over. Here's another one. Isn't that a good way to get the coof? I mean, is all their taped up laundry softener outfits really gonna save them from when they're wrestling around with this dude and ripping open their laundry fabric softener outfits? And as we saw yesterday or the day before, basically doing the same thing kind of in Australia as well. All right, let's go on to the next piece of news for tonight. Oh, this one's cool. We're kind of on a theme here. All right. Sorry. This lady Claire Daly, thinking about.
I voted against this.
I voted
Timing is pretty
3 times. Ken, hey, what's up, buddy? Give a shout out. We're listening to Claire Daly from Dublin.
coming as a double vote. I voted against this report. Its timing is pretty appropriate, coming as it does a few short weeks after the 11th anniversary of the day Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi was killed during the NATO assault on Libya, sodomised with a bayonet and shot in the head. The NATO intervention in Libya, carried out in the name of protecting freedom, democracy and human rights, is
democracy.
well to remember as NATO plays out its proxy war in Ukraine in the name of, you've guessed it, freedom, democracy and human rights. Because what happens after NATO intervenes in your country on this basis? Terror, death, lawlessness, rape, poverty, starvation. Libya is a country riven by conflict, its economy shattered, its population, formerly the wealthiest in Africa, ridden and mired in poverty. Migrants are bought and sold in slave markets. 1 million people rely on humanitarian aid. It's a country of mass graves, of crimes against humanity. This is NATO's legacy. This is NATO's rights strategy and democracy. I voted.
They're like, bollocks. Bollocks, Claire. Take your shenanigans, Claire, out of the... Where's the UN and EU? Won't they help us? Look at exactly. This is them. I mean, is it that easy just to convince people of anything if you just add the 3 words? Freedom, democracy, and what was the third one? Probably rights. What did she say? Help me out here. Freedom, democracy, and what was it? Come on. I don't have to watch the whole thing again.
NATO's rights strategy.
Where was it? Was it back here?
Country of
Never when you find something, you find it right. Freedom, democracy, and human rights. There you go. You can convince anybody with these 3 words. That would be a great... What if I could promise you freedom, democracy, and human rights for just the cost of a cup of Spindrift a day? You too could have freedom, democracy, and human rights. As we send, what is it? They're asking for another $1 trillion to be sent over to a country that we all know is going to lose a war, so we're just creating more deaths, right? She nails it. I think she's a kind of a left-wing Marxist kind of activist or something like that, but hey, you know, broken clocks can be right twice a day. She's speaking the truth. Let's see what else it's in the comment section there. Now that's interesting. This person says she's Sinn Féin, but she's not Sinn Féin. Yeah, see, she's not Sinn Féin. Where's Crispy? Crispy, are you in? We've got my resident Irish UCD. Is Crispy in the house? Crispy, you seen her before? Yeah, she's not Sinn Féin, right? Claire, middle class union leader, LARPing with worker class Dublin accent. Yeah, she has a Dublin. But she couldn't get the North Dublin Chav accent down. As much as she tried. The Tala accent. What's Tala? D17 or something like that? But it's cool what she said. So I thought we'd play it. Let's go back. Let's see what... Nobody else wants to call in? Do we have any super chats? Any questions? She certainly doesn't have a D4 accent. This, if anybody's been in Dublin, would know. Okay, what is this guy saying? This is great. You guys won't get it. Crispy will get this. Responded like a true idiot. Idiot. That's the way in Irish you say idiot. Idiot. Sinn Féin are traitors to the Irish people these days. Probably. That's what I never get. Like, who is this person responding to? Claire or the person above? Or I never get. What's going on? Anyways, that one was funny because that was just oh, whoops. I didn't even have you on there. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was back on. I don't know why it does that. I can't switch back and forth. I've got to go, so I apologize. It's kind of annoying. Whatever. Oh, there's 355 comments. I want to see what the rest of these folks are saying. Something about Mexico will always open its arms to Libya, so it's focused on Libya, but I mean, it just shows the hypocrisy. I don't know why she's focusing so much on Libya versus when they go low, we go Mars. Okay. Somebody says she does these all the time to people who just shrug. Yeah, that obviously fell on deaf ears. What is this guy talking about? All right, let's move on to another one. I think that's good for. That was just kind of cool to see. Next piece of news. I always try to make these about 2 hours. So we've got about 15 minutes left if anybody wants to call in, say hello. They are more than welcome. I'll put the link again. Idiot. Yeah. No, I can't even do it now that I'm reading all your guys' stuff there. And I've lost, I haven't practiced I've been away from Dublin for a while, and I've lost my Dublin accent. And I'd have to practice some more. before I get it back. Otherwise, I'm just butchering it at this point. Close this. And I'm going to find another piece of news for you. Yeah, she probably doesn't talk about real Irish issues. Okay, this is a good one to talk about. Man, that tastes good. Oh, and I did it again. Lord have mercy, forgive me. You deserve more. What kind of message? So here's the question. What kind of message is this? Prioritize your well-being with balance, with Apple's app of the day. Free for an entire year. Here you have a sign, support someone. That's scratched out. Put yourself first with balance. Free for an entire year. Yeah. Exactly. Put yourself first. You deserve more. Prioritize your well-being. Screw everyone else. You get your... Exactly what? What does your balance cost? When your advertising interrupts my video, just makes you hate the product. I mean, you see these kinds of things. Exactly. This person's like, it's selfish thinking. You do you. All these like cliches. You do you. Be all that you can be. I mean, here's all you have to do to figure out the absurdity of these things if you don't realize it right away. It's called the plug-in method. Plug in your favorite psychopath. Support yourself, Jeffrey Dahmer. Put yourself first with balance, Jeffrey Dahmer. With your Apple's app of the day. Right? You be you, Jeffrey. Who knows what you need more than yourself, Jeffrey? So you just be all that you can be. You are whatever you think you are, Jeffrey. If you want to be a cannibal, psychopath, serial killer, then that's... I mean, who am I to judge what you can do with your body? Right? Do you see how absurd this is? Yeah, we need to support your neighbor, not... Support your internal Jeffrey Dahmer. Everybody just, you put your own personal internal Jeffrey Dahmer first, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, how absurd. Apple. This is for the narcissist. Well, they probably just realized, they just did a study and realized that how many narcissists we have. And they were like, well, this'll work well. This'll sell well. All right, next. What do we got? Surprise. Some fun. Squirrel gets drunk on fermented pears. Oh, man. He sloshed. Pull together, man. Okay. Oh, he's starting to lose it again. Oh. Man, a night at the club. He is wrecked. And yet he's still eating them. Dumb squirrels. Now everybody in here is like, oh, that poor squirrel. Well, first of all, it seems like from other animals, they actually like to get drunk. Oh, here's a human version of that. Portuguese. That's hilarious. Horrible and cruel, says probably a vegan. Somebody says that's probably terrified, but no, I guarantee it's not. I mean, it probably has no idea what's going on, but so this is a typical armchair activists. I was going to say, with the alcohol, though, the flight fright goes away. So they're not terrified. They're like, when somebody's drunk, they're not like, oh, I'm terrified. I've never... It's like, God, I don't even care. I'm dying. And this is... it's not even rational, so it's not even probably understanding what's... I mean, think of the things that we kind of... we project onto animals, right? That... I want to see what you guys are having to say about this. The squirrel reminds me of me, somebody says. Where's Henley? Oh, yeah. I told you Kale would get bored the debate. So you just come on over here. Yeah, I heard about the Kanye and AJ. I'm not even comment on as just... All I can say is what a weird world we live in. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea. But they'll be talking about that for years and years and years. Let's go to another tweet here. Let's do some Momerica. Let's do a Momerica tweet. What do you say, guys? Proud to be American.
Teacher alive.
Whoops, I hit the wrong. Here you go. Celebrating America. (1901) Colombia, 1902 Panama, 1904 Korea, Maghreb, 1905 Honduras, 1905 Mexico. Oh, this is in response to the objections. How dare another country go to war with a sovereign nation? I'm like, isn't that what countries that go to war do? Hey, let's pick one of those unsovereign nations to go to war with, right? Sovereignty. That's war. And we can get into, the doctrine of just warfare and stuff. Obviously, there's bad wars, but like throwing out sovereignty isn't a good, especially if you come from this place. But that's our jam, dude. We invade sovereign countries. Look at how many. That's just the tip of the iceberg. More recent times, Nicaragua, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Greece, Philippines, Puerto Rico, Korea, Iran, Lebanon, Panama, Laos, Haiti, Ecuador, Panama again, Vietnam, Guatemala, the Philippines. Let's make another trip back to the Philippines. Laos again. Why don't we just do another Nicaragua, Iran, Grenada, Libya, Honduras, Iran, Iraq, Somalia, Sudan, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Syria. The list goes on. U.S. intervention since World War II. Bomb attack, sabotage, attempted regime changes. Ain't nobody gonna be doing regime change unless it's us, right? We have a monopoly on invading sovereign nations. Nobody else can do that. It's ridiculous. Well, obviously, this is called American moral exceptionalism. Somebody says, why come you get to do it and we can't? Well, because we're the moral beacon. Because we're better. Because we're always right. We have moral infallibility. I mean, how could we? That's what allows us to go in, right? Man, look how young Julian Assange looked. Let's see what the president's saying.
Let's get this straight. How would it be if the United States were viewed by the rest of the world as interfering with the elections directly of other countries? And everybody knew it. We've been going hard for too long. Can't get enough with a shoe on. Really ain't nothing I can drop that. Wake up in the morning, make it all that. It's nothing to get it poppin' one roll. Roll in a way, here we go now. Martin had a dream, I've been dreaming about goals. Hey, I just wanna shine and I gotta let it shine. Walk right through the door, got a nigga on repeat. My number love flow, vibrate the whole building, name ringing through your phone. Waiting for the smoke clear, see me through the fog. Fall back, it can go all bad. We be going hard with your ex.
That's our job. Yeah, exactly. What was that meme? Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You might have seen me in movies like CIA Takes. Have you seen that meme? Troy McClure is the one from The Simpsons, and they did like all the different... Hi, I'm Troy McClure, CIA operative. You might have recognized me from Operation Granada, and like it goes through all the different... the different ones there. So, your thoughts on that while I queue up the next piece of news. We're almost done. We are done. All right, I need to pick one last one for a good ending tonight. Yeah? That one's cool, but let's see. Maybe two more that I'm going to look at, and I'll choose the best of the three. And then we'll end with that, and wish you all a blessed evening. And... oh, this is it. Here we go. This is good. Here we go. All right. Lights off. Back on. If you haven't seen this one today, it's really great. Scandal of the Century. So watch these clips of the different news ads basically covering, right? I mean, people's memory is so short, right? So it's good to put them all together, right? Where did we come from? Like, what actually happened? Let's remember. Okay? What's happened? 100% protection. '95, '94, '93, '92, '91, '90, '89, '88. Got to bring down those numbers. Oh, what a great ending to a beautiful evening with all y'all, your hosts of Norwegian News for Thursday night news. I thank all of you. Just double check. Make sure I didn't leave anybody out for Super Chat. And if you do have any questions before we end real quick, go ahead and send a Super Chat. And we'll continue this. So it seems like you guys really like this wonderful Orthodox exploration and analysis navigation through the current events and news and through social media. So, yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed evening. Do not be fooled. Stay sharp, critical in your thinking, and read the Fathers, pray, go to church, liturgy, and wish you all the best. Please keep me in your prayers, and thanks. Good numbers, and we'll just keep it going. All right. Bye, guys. Take care. Blessed evening, and we out of here.